Good morning. Just taking a look at what's going on so far. We had a little bit of selling in the overnight, but so far it is starting to recuperate a little bit. We had Soxel down almost 5%, and now it's back up negative 1.5%, so that's nice. Morning, everybody. Are you guys able to hear me? So I don't have the entire PC set up and everything, so I don't have the screen set up exactly how I want, so for now, um, anytime we want to pull up the heat map, I'm just gonna have to pull it up on the side. But eventually there will be different screens where it shows the heat map, it shows the actual charting, and all sorts of different stuff. So for now, we just kind of have to deal with that. But later this week or early next week, I'll have that set up. Now, we had a lot of selling last week, and we are seeing a lot of our precious metals starting to recover. It's a really good sign. I believe we're seeing silver bouncing off the bottom Bollinger, so very likely that's going to be testing the 5 mile today. Now, the 5 mile, it's basically right at that level. It's only 20 cents off, give or take, on actual silver. Yeah, it's about 20 cents off on that as well. At the 73 level, we could expect 74. If it's going to reject, then, expect the upper bounds of the 5 mile range and the lower bounds. Mims has been getting crushed. Where every time I look at this thing, it's down like 20%. Going to be a good enter area pretty soon. Interesting to look at. Bitcoin, still seeing a lot of selling. This can pull down still towards that 60K range. But this is the weekly time frame, so very likely we're going to see this 5 mile test fully test out and then start working towards the 20 mile there. Well, no, that's the weekly time frame. My bad, it changed on me, but kind of the same deal. We're looking for the 5 mile retest and then back up to 80K. Now, many are expecting Bitcoin to continue dumping. I'm not so much in that ballpark right now. Um, Now that we've actually kind of finished out a lot of this bearish structure here, yeah, we can push down further, but very likely we're going to see some consolidation in here prior to that. Hong Kong. It's nice to see you here. Now, what I'm really looking for is for QQQ to regain a lot of its support. It's been really struggling out of basically the SPY semiconductors and tech, it's been struggling the most. So kind of has the most to gain as well. Let's see what trend we got going on here. Apologize if there's a bunch of drawings. I decide to show the drawings on some of these. Likely that's the structure. I do miss you. Yes, I do. May not seem like it, but it's nice to be able to chat with you guys and, you know, have interaction that's human. I apologize, I can't really pull up TradingView or anything, or else I'd be pulling up some of the other indicators, but what I'm looking for is a really good entry scalp on the day, which so far QQQ is not that. Using the 5-minute Bollingers for this, really looking for a lower Bollinger entry on the 5-minute time frame, so that's the goal right now. Apologize if I'm not talking a lot right now. Super, super, super tired. I've been doing a ton with the room and everything. Well, not just this room. I've been having to work on this room. I've been having to move 3 different rooms around. Still not finished with it yet, but very, very close. You can hear that. That's my cat. She knows how to open doors, so apologize. Seeing some really positive movement on the yen. And this is the FXY. This is something we want to see moving up if we're bullish. Obviously, if you're bearish, you want to see it continue dropping. This monitors the yen, so if it's moving upward, the yen is gaining strength. If it's moving downward, the yen is losing strength, excuse me. Now, it's important because we're seeing the dollar drop quite a bit right now. Really shouldn't have this on the hourly. But we're seeing the dollar drop quite a bit, and very likely many of you didn't get a chance to watch the video last night because it was quite long. But the DXY, the dollar, has been within this very large selling channel for an extremely long time now. Basically since it jumped up to that 116, it says 114, but I swear it was 116. Back when I traded it, I know there's no dividends or anything attached to this, so it might just be on the hourly time frame, but it was very, very elevated. The weekly kind of shows this a lot better. You can see the blue channel, and let me just go ahead and turn off the Bollingers, how it's been following that channel very, very, precisely. We trade all the way to the top of it, down to the bottom, back to the top, to the bottom. Now, I'm not really anticipating it trading back up to the top again. What I really do expect is it kind of pulling back up towards this consolidation range. and then rejecting once again. However, we already had that happen here, and now there's sort of this miniature head and shoulders going on where we can continue to see the dollar dropping downward. Now, why this matters is because if we see the dollar starting to really continue dropping, we should see a lot of weight enter back into Bitcoin. And I wish these charts would not shift things on me. But we should see a lot of weight shift back into Bitcoin. We should see a lot of weight re-enter back into equities. So like SPY, QQQ, semiconductors. This is a mess. I'm gonna have to clean this up a little bit, but not super important right now. The main thing for the SPY that I'm looking at is that I know there's a lot of drawings right here, but the main thing I want you to really focus on is this blue selling channel and the green arrows in that selling channel. So every time we start pulling upward towards this consolidation range, we generally see very, very large buying. And when we have that buying, we have selling to fill out the range. From that selling, we see even higher buying, range filled back out again to the downside, even larger buying to the upside, even larger selling to the downside, but again, it is filling that range back out. And now my expectation is really that we should be seeing, above all-time highs, we should be seeing this selling channel expanding very, very likely upward. Um, Even though it has been holding its weight so far, but this channel used to be back here prior to the previous all-time high. So it does shift a little bit depending on, whether there's continuation of buying or selling. Yeah, many of these are pushed up right now on the 5-minute time frame. Again, I'm really looking for a trade where it's towards the lower Bollinger, at least towards open anyway. We still have a whole hour, so that can shift quite a bit. Silver has a really nice cup formed on it. I know many of you are very likely trading silver right now because everybody's trading silver right now. Um, Very nice cup. This is a very, very good bullish structure. Likely, I'm going to try to take contracts into this. Nothing short term, very likely. I want to say April, May, somewhere in there. I'll look at the contracts in a little bit once the market opens. But anyway, what I'm really looking for is besides the moving averages and everything, just structurally, we should see, obviously this cup taken all the way back up the 83 range. Very, very likely build some support at the top of it. From there, build a handle and continue upward. I'm not very set on, um, you know, the precious metals and everything seeing a continued dip. Very likely, this is going to be bought up very quickly. Last time we saw this type of dip, um, we didn't even get down to the lower Bollinger. We did have a little bit of consolidation underneath the 20 MA, but from that range, it was back at the 45 something and, took us all the way back up to all-time highs. And even though this looks pretty uh, I don't know, scary right now, but that scariness can definitely change direction very, very quickly, especially when you see the open today. You're going to see a lot of this selling weight taken back upward. And once we start finding a bullish structure on this, which again, we do have a small cup and handle forming, um, that can definitely fill this fair value gap all the way back up if this is a fair value gap anyway. We're seeing some pretty decent buys too on silver in the pre-market. Obviously, the pre-market price is up 3%, but I'm talking in the actual shares. I don't think it will show on your screen right now, but um, we're seeing large orders of, 1,000 sets, and I'll kind of show you how I have this set up. Let me see, 1 second. Or if I can just drag that now. No, I'll have to fix it later. Let me hide the heat map again. Now, socks could be a really nice trade. Um, it is breaking out of this 20 mile range where it did again have the lower Bollinger rejection to the upside. Um, that's a very, very bullish signal. And on top of that, we see the ADL, which is again kind of the inflow and outflow of funds. It's been really, really skyrocketing. Um, Now on the 5 minute time frame, again, I'm still looking for this to pull downward slightly. So it's not exactly a key entry point yet, but um, the pre-market, we've been seeing it did have a pretty major pull downward, and since then it's been just slowly pulling back up. So very good signal on that. Good morning. Very welcome. I apologize if it's a little boring. Have to get used to it and everything. Sorry if you guys can hear my cat. He broke into the room earlier. Again, I'm just trying to find some sort of decent play for the open today. Either looking for something that's extremely extended above the upper Bollinger or below that. And this is on the 5 minute time frame. That's how we can get a very, very good scalp. Just go down the list. I don't feel like messing with Adobe right now. Might be a nice trade to take right there. So on AMD, you see how there is this very, very bullish structure. You do have this cup formed, but from the cup being formed, sorry, I'm trying to get this scrolled over. From the cup being formed, we should be anticipating some form of handle pulling downward. So there's actually two really quality trades here. You can either catch the top of the cup on a short, try to catch the handle, and very likely it'll be towards that middle Bollinger, the 20 mile range, potentially all the way back down to the lower Bollinger if you get really lucky with the short. And then wherever that short exit is, then you take a call back up to the upside, secure that 212. From that 212, start filling some of these gaps to the upside. Now, I know the AMD contracts are generally a week long, um, just based off of inception. So that's a really nice one. Apple, let's take a look at Apple. Apple is very, very good for the scalp, yes. So even though I personally look for the upper Bollinger or lower Bollinger in terms of the 5 minute time frame, the middle Bollinger can also be a very, very quality entry as well. Um, Generally, when you hit the middle Bollinger on the 5 minute time frame, it doesn't like to hold that range very long. Um, Usually, it's going to be a bounce or break from that level. So how I try to do my scalps is basically if I'm shorting, I will short from the upper Bollinger to the 20 mile. If the 20 mile is going to see continued selling from that point, then we can hold, potential runners down to the lower Bollinger. But very likely we will secure the majority of our profit around that 20 mile range. Oh, and it gave a dividend. Yeah, dividend days are always very, very nice short days. I know the SPY dividend that comes every 3 months or every quarter, whatever it is. Um, Usually a very easy short day. I always get in the short, usually a day or two in advance of the actual dividend, and that way the put IV doesn't get all elevated during the actual dividend time. Sorry, I have to get these cats out of here. I got like two cats screaming at me. You're back. Sorry about that. I'm back. No, I have multiple cats, and one of them knows how to open the door, while the other one is super super loud. So one opens the door, the other one comes in and starts meowing like crazy. Anyway, AMD looks very very good for the 5 minute scalp. Again, just be aware that we are starting to exit that upper Bollinger range. We still have an hour until open, so that can change slightly, but it is something to be aware of. What we got going on with Amazon. You definitely want to buy Amazon off that. Yeah, that's a very good buy. That's a super easy buy. Um, yeah, Amazon's a good trade. I mean, that's an extremely quality setup. That's exactly what you're looking for in terms of wanting a call upside. Now, it does look sketchy, okay, but you have a couple good things here. You have this lower Bollinger move on top of the 200 mom. Well, generally for most stocks, they want to trade above the 200 mom. So with this lower Bollinger move, and the last real quality lower Bollinger move was mid-January, April. So yeah, April last year, and then um, I don't know why I said January. During August, excuse me, and then now. So Amazon, very quality. I would not be worried too much about further downside at this point. You have a very well constructed cup formed here. With this major downside selling, this is giving you pretty much a free handle to the upside. Looks very good. Yeah, so I'm going to mark that down. I definitely want to trade that. And this is kind of just what I do almost every single morning that I'm scalping. I just go through my watch list, see if there's anything that I see a quality setup on. I remember when ASTS was trading around 20 bucks. Crazy to see it at 100 now. Now, remember I said that semiconductors can potentially be seeing a lot of upside. That goes for a lot of the individual semiconductors as well. So if you see a good scalp with that, then potentially there's a lot of room in it. I've really been wanting to add shares of BlackRock. Every time it dips, I always focus on other things and miss the dip. I know most people hate BlackRock, but it still is a good company. I'm not looking to really trade Beyond Meat right now, but there's a really nice Head and Shoulders um, on the 5 minute time frame. So potentially you can get a nice little short on that coin. Potentially could be very nice. It's a very nice handle right there on a cup. And it is below the 5 minute Bollinger. So kind of exactly what we're looking for a quality scalp if we're going to be seeing some upside in Bitcoin. Dollar's still dropping, very good. Very likely we'll close that room back down to the 95. 50. I would suggest Energizer, but not really a whole ton of scalp room on that one. We already know the yen is moving upward. Gold potentially could be forming a nice scalp. Hold on. Kind of have that same situation going on with gold here, where you have a cup, you have a handle forming, potentially just waiting for that breakout. On the 5 minute time frame, we're starting to pull below that lower Bollinger. So if it holds there on open, it could be, potentially a very nice scalp. Um, I would be looking closer towards the 461, what was it, 461.76 range, give or take. But if you break above that, which really that should, then it would be that 463, 464 range plus. So that's potentially a really nice scalp. Pig, we don't scalp pig, but I do have shares going since the dip. Same with IBIT. I did buy into IBIT. Intel. What's going on here with Intel? So Intel looks pretty good for pretty much a free move up to the almost the 55. Very likely it would take that 55. It would close that cup back up to the 54.60. Push the upper Bollinger with the upper Bollinger push, secure the higher high on the first day, or the high day two higher high. That would almost certainly give you the 55. On the 5 minute time frame as well, it's giving you an entry. Not the best entry because potentially this can pull back down towards that 48. Um, but if you do see buying, hold, then that would be very good. There's some quality bullish structure here. If it pulls below that 49, I wouldn't try to take that trade. It'd be that 49.65. Good morning. We don't have a whole lot of data today, so I'm just rambling like usual. Now, I used to try to buy into Johnson& Johnson on dips. However, Johnson& Johnson is just one of those companies that likes to continue dipping. So I wouldn't really try to take that. Eli Lilly could be opening up a really nice scalp. Um, does look like it's trying to already break out though. I would keep eyes on that one because again, you do potentially have a really nice cup built here. If the handle pulls down and actually rejects off of either the 200 mah or the bottom Bollinger, then that can give you plenty of upside room. Um, potentially all the way back up to that 1086 just in terms of today. So potentially that's good. LMT, I know many are looking at that right now. Not really the type of buying range that I'm looking for. As you can see, we already have a pretty well formed cup here. We exited the upper Bollinger, so while we can push back upward, the likelihood is we're very likely going to be testing the 20 mah. From that 20 mah test, we can pull back down towards the lower Bollinger, so that's always a concern when trying to go long. That's generally why I try to go long always in the lower Bollinger on either the daily or the weekly time frame. That just will always give you the best entries. As you can see, LMT, even on the weekly time frame, is extremely elevated. It's pushed well above its upper Bollinger, so trying to go long on that would be, I don't want to call it crazy, but very likely would lose in the short term. Lunar could be a pretty nice trade, but I know many do not trade biotech too much. It's the oil is meta, nothing really opening yet on that. Same with MP. It's because you're looking at the daily time frame. Still holds true. Potentially there could be an entry on oil today. Granted, again, this is just a 5-minute time frame. And overall, I have been kind of expecting a dip in oil. Wouldn't exactly try to scalp it, but the potential is there. What is everybody trading this week or, wanting to trade? Micron could be pretty decent. Micron makes me mad though. It's a great company, but I remember suggesting it to people when I think it was around either $72 or $77. It was in the $70 range. Um, I didn't buy into any of it. I wish I did. I wish I went long because this sucker just ripped. Would not be trying to short it yet though, or go long. Potentially the 20 mile range could always be a very strong range to go long at. You just have to hedge the downside. It's a little different compared to going long at the lower Bollinger where um the statistical odds of it pushing back upward are extremely high compared to the 20 mile where it's just, I wouldn't say 50-50. Obviously, it's not 50-50. The market trades above the 20 mile most of the time, but it does leave the potential for that downside. Um, and if you're running any sort of contracts or anything, that'll absolutely destroy those contracts. So when I'm going long, I always do try to take the lower Bollinger. Service now, let me see. Okay, I see what you're looking at. You know, I would actually say this would be a very good long. Um, there's kind of a couple different reasons why. The previous 20 mod test here, and this is on the daily time frame. Yes, there has been some, very, very extreme selling. Don't really care about that aspect so much. What I am looking at is that we have been sitting below this 20-day moving average for an extremely, extremely long time. Throughout all this selling, we've had one upper Bollinger move, which was very, very short. I'm sure if I actually went to the hourly time frame during this time, I don't even think this would count as an upper Bollinger move. Um, as you can see, it's rejecting off of the 200 MA, which overall that is a bearish signal. We definitely can't ignore that. However, your weekly has a very strong upward trend going. Now, obviously, this can move slightly. Um, Sorry, I'm just trying to think about this for a moment. What I think the most key part to determine right now is if this selling channel on the weekly time frame is going to be holding or not. This is kind of a very, very key crossroads right here because either you're going to be bouncing upward into the buying channel or you're going to be bouncing upward into the selling channel. And I know that sounds like the same thing, but it's really not because going long on that, yes, you're going to see a lot of that upward exposure. However, it's taking to the different channel compared to one way or the other. So the trading at the 20 mile range is always going to be focused on either that downside or trying to build that upside. Um, for short term, and I would say short term being the next 6 months, I would say this is a very strong equity hold. Definitely, definitely a strong equity hold. You do have to monitor it though, um, just because it's right between this buying and selling channel. It can push down further once it sees some of this upside consolidation. Now, the upside consolidation, really, you should be looking for well above this 200 mile range. Um, this symbol likes to trade well above the 200 mile range for a long period of time. Um, this should be overall seen as a dip. So yeah, I would definitely look to buy into that. And that's the symbol now. Right, let's check out NVIDIA. Amalgamation of a drawing. See how strong this consolidation range has been holding. Every time I think it's about to break out and create a cup to the upside, it just sits within that consolidation. A really weird consolidation too because it's just going so straight across that this could be inside of a buying channel still while inside of a selling channel. Kind of with how I was showing on now, only except This is giving you zero clear picture because it's not bouncing off of any one of them. It's just kind of sitting in the center of that channel. Yeah, you're very welcome. NVIDIA looks good for a longer duration contract, and I don't want to say longer. I'm really talking more towards end of the week. If you see this 5 month or this not 5 month 5 minute time frame bounce off of the 20 month, then very, very, very likely you're going to be seeing that 187 range. From that 187 range, you should be seeing a lot of the upside gaps being filled again. We're trading above the 5 mile. The 20 mile and 10 mile are super heavily consolidated, but the 5 mile will be pulling upward. Very likely that's going to be around the, I want to say the 182.20-ish range on the 5 mile. Can be a little higher, might be a little lower. Just make sure you mark it if you're going to be trading NVIDIA. A bounce off of that range, if they go down for a deeper test, would definitely show that they want a lot more of that upside, especially because NVIDIA's been slowly starting to trade below the 50-day moving average. Again, that's not something NVIDIA likes to do very often. Generally likes to try to trade above that range. Novo Nordisk, I always buy the dip on this thing. Um, Whenever it gets to a lower Bollinger move, I buy the dip. I did not buy the dip on Friday. I should have. I missed that one. I have to check my average in this. I want to say it's around 44 something right now. NXPI looks pretty nice. Good bullish structure in there. Again, a lot of tech and semiconductors right now are going to look pretty grim just because we have been seeing a lot of selling. Um, this kind of reflects back when we were really having the sell-off in April and everything, is that when we get to these lower Bollinger moves, they do become very strong entry points. However, if the trend is going to continue downward, if we reject the 5 mont, which I'm really not seeing at this range yet, it can happen. But again, I have not seen those signals yet. I have not seen um, weakness in the high yield credit market. The VIX is a little elevated still. We see the 10-year today. What's it doing this morning? Seeing a little bit of upside. Where is UVIX? Want to go to the hourly. We'll see what the VVIX is at when we're at open. That'll definitely tell us a lot better if this is going to be a major buying day or a selling day. Yeah, there's silver with that breakout, so it does look like we're very likely going to be missing the open in terms of catching that lower Bollinger move. Now, Exxon be a decent play, but I feel like it can be a little misleading as well. We do have this, very potential cup and handle forming here. We do have it below the 5-minute Bollinger. We do see the 5-minute ADL pulling upward. However, on the daily time frame, it's been just absolutely soaring. So it's really hard to scalp into that because it's at this really dangerous point where it's below the upper Bollinger, but above the 5 mile. If you guys have seen my videos before, you know that's a very, very, contentious range where it can either cause massive, massive selling to the downside or, you secure that upper Bollinger. So it does look good on the 5-minute time frame, but the daily time frame can be a little sketchy on that. Seeing a lot of red in the early pre-market. Well, I guess it's not early pre-market anymore. Almost open now. Gonna take a look at NVIDIA and Google in a little bit, but again, remember we did take a look at Amazon. Amazon looked very, very strong. So even though it is currently seeing a little downside right now, overall, I do think it will be bought up. All right, and I'll go check out NVIDIA and Google. 1 hour time frame on NVIDIA looks really, really, really strong. You have a very, very good cup built here. It needs a handle. This can be the handle. Generally, I would expect something a little deeper. Um, but it still does look good. In terms of a scalp, it's just sitting in between, so not really ideal just yet. But if we get that move down, if we see the lower Bollinger rejected to the upside, then again, end of the week options on NVIDIA can be very, very good. And Google. Now, Google, I'm already going to tell you, looks very good just because we did get that lower Bollinger move. Um, we did not see a lower low from that lower Bollinger move. However, between SPY, QQQ, and semiconductors seeing a lot of downside, um, so many different symbols have gone through their lower Bollinger moves in the last few days. So I wouldn't really worry about that one too much. Just the fact that we did get the lower Bollinger move to me is bullish enough. This will still always haunt me that I didn't buy it at 144. Kind of like a lot of my picks, but that seems to happen. On Google as well, you do have a very nice looking micro buying channel formed here. Now, granted, this isn't the entire channel, um, but this is heavily suggesting that this is going to bounce upward. So if we don't see major selling throughout tech and everything in the open, then very likely Google could be a very nice contract to take this week as well. Um, Potentially not even just for the week if you want something a little longer. then the upside back towards that 350 looks, very, very strong right now. Now, banks have been looking a little odd, and I will circle back to them in a second. I just want to take a look at Broadcom. But what I've been looking at on the banks is mainly CRE and DPST, which that's the regional bank ETFs. CRE or DPST has been following this buying channel for a very long time. Broke out of the selling channel, which is very good. It is above the upper Bollinger on the weekly, so that is slightly bearish. Um, Again, it looks like major buying, but when you're above the upper Bollinger, that's when you go bearish. Below the lower Bollinger, that's when you go bullish. So weekly does look a little bearish in terms of that. Same with the daily time frame. It is very, very extended right now. However, we do have this very nice cup forming. So with this cup forming, very likely it will pull down, retest the 20 MA, from that 20 MA retest, then push back up into the upper Bollinger to close this cup back up to the 170. So plenty of room in DPST contracts as well. I wouldn't really be trying to take DPST shares. I would do that more so with like CRE. Yeah, for CRE, you're seeing it pushed well above the upper Bollinger on the weekly and the daily time frame. So there is, actually some potential to short this right now for, you know, right now 73. Could take it all the way back to 68. So potentially a $4.50, $5 short right there. Curie on the monthly time frame. Let's take a look. Curiosity streams. Daily looks. No, you said the weekly, but I will get there. Just one moment. Daily time frame looks good. Again, lower Bollinger mechanics are at play. Now, did this have any reverse splits to it? Don't think so, but I just want to double check. So dividend. And they actually paid a dividend in December, all throughout 2025. That's interesting. So one thing about companies, and this is almost any company out there, if your company is going to be paying a dividend, and it doesn't even matter if it's just a penny, then your company's good, okay? Because most companies out there cannot pay a dividend. So seeing this already paying a dividend, even though it's down pretty massively compared to its all-time high, weekly can push down a little further. Structurally, I would be looking for this to form more of a inverse cup towards the downside. The ADL on the weekly as well is kind of reflecting that. It's showing a little bit of weakness, or continued weakness within the selling in the symbol. Seeing that within the daily time frame as well. Um, you do have a very large consolidation range right here, which I want to see if I can put a box around it to kind of. That consolidation range is very, very dangerous. Because we're right next to it, and once you pull back into that consolidation range again, the extreme likelihood is that you'll be trading from the top of the consolidation range back to the bottom. That's just standardly or standard how consolidation ranges work. So once you enter back into that liquidity, the likelihood is extremely high that it would be pulling back down, um, potentially all the way down to that $1.14 again. However, on the upside is that if you do reject this um, major liquidity range, then the upside becomes very large because if you can reject the consolidation, then that's going to give you room for a breakout. So there's not a whole lot of bearish structure going on here. Um, it's just a lot of chop, up, down, up, down, up, down. You see a cup starting to form in here and it breaks down further. So a lot of indecisiveness. You do see each of these bottom Bollinger moves do have a little bit of strength to them. So previous bottom Bollinger move there went all the way from the 386 to the 530. Then the prior lower Bollinger move prior to this one, the 340 all the way to the uh, 494-ish range, give or take slightly. So you do have some upside in here. Potentially you have a whole ton of upside. Um, just you do need to kind of set a stop loss at that liquidity range because if you enter it, it's going to get very bad. The ADL is really telling a huge story though, and this is an indicator that I heavily suggest to everybody. And it basically is like a bank account. It is going to be monitoring the inflow and outflow of any funds into that ETF or symbol. So for me, this is a major lie detector. This tells me pretty much exactly what's going on in terms of the actual trend. For this symbol, the actual trend so far is showing, aside from the actual price action, it's showing major downside. And this is showing that people are withdrawing a lot of funds from this company. However, again, we do have the dividend per share. And if it can reject that range, it looks very positive. Now we are going to mark this in white, because that's how I generally mark the consolidation range. Now, one thing I'm going to take a look at before the open is the FX pairings again. Again, we just want to continue to see if the dollar is going to be dropping. We have a lot of signals that are telling us that it will continue to do so. We have not only the dollar dropping, we have the yen continuing to rise. It's actually seeing quite a bit of strength in the pre-market right now, so that's a very good signal. The USD JPY is dropping down. It's still very elevated. Again, if it's above that, basically 148 plus, that's really that range when the Bank of Japan is going to start potentially intervening. And when they intervene, that means they basically sell off the dollar. And buy the yen. Selling the dollar means that they're going to be selling equities, treasuries, all sorts of different things. So it's not a good thing when we see this so elevated. Again, we do have a little bit of a cup forming here, and with this cup, with us exiting this lower Bollinger, this can create some major strength in the USD JPY, showing weakness in the yen, major weakness in the yen from here would definitely suggest a major Bank of Japan intervention. That's really what we've been seeing a lot of over the last few weeks with the selling. So they can definitely pick it up quite a bit. Um, the last time we really saw the Bank of Japan unwind, we really attribute it to the one during the 2024 at the end of July, early August, but it happened both during that period of time and also during the major sell-off from January to April. And the reason why we know that happened is because when we look at the actual, if I can find the symbol, I apologize, I am a blind man. When we look at the actual daily time frame on the USD JPY, during the whole entirety of January to April, you see it unwinding. And again, this is the unwinding for the quarter three of 2024, and then the unwinding of quarter one of 2025. So um, I'm not seeing major unwinding just yet, and that is a concern if we're expecting to push upward. I will swing by and take a look at Amazon again before open, because again, that did look very good when we checked it out. They do have a little bit of this wonky candle going on in the pre-market, which I really don't like. Um, I know many people are going to tell you those wonky candles don't mean anything. They absolutely do. I used to do technical analysis on the end of day and pre-market, those crazy candles, and they would actually line up very, very well. So I always look at those major candles unless it's an actual bugged out candle. That's completely different. Not mean to make a line. I wanted to make parallel. Really, that's not the top of that channel. The top of this channel is what started it. So this is kind of what you have working for Amazon in terms of the 30-minute time frame. 5-minute time frame still looking good. Just again, a little concerned about this major candle downward because this can create an inverse cup pretty easily. So that is a concern. I don't think we're going to see Amazon drop a whole $10. Um, you know, that'd be pretty crazy. So still looking good. Bitcoin, we did get that leg down. Talked about how that can turn into an inverse cup. It did. However, it's still within this bullish structure. We still have the cup. We still have a little bit of a handle forming here. It doesn't look the best, but it's still there. It's still present. And again, with the dollar dropping, this does suggest that we will see some upside in Bitcoin. I don't care about the dollar. We want it to drop. Yeah, it does look like we are gonna miss the bounce from gold and silver, at least in the 5-minute time frame. Random drawing. Sorry about that. Good morning. Now, SPY is looking a little sketchy in terms of the 5-minute time frame. Now, again, I'm only looking at the 5-minute time frame for scalps. I'm not looking at that for overall structure. So, um, we still have a small cup forming here. If we don't pull down to that 688, then very, very likely we would see a 5 mod test. From that 5 mod test, we would very, very likely push up towards that 692. Well, first it would reclaim the 691.30, and then from the 691.30, build some form of structure to then push up to that 692. Main thing I'm concerned about on the SPY is that you do see this rounding on the 5-minute time frame where this can kind of close down and um form an inverse cup. We do have a little bit of consolidation right there, so that does tell me a little bit that that can be a range that they can take. So that is something I'm concerned about, especially when we're seeing semiconductors still selling. Not really selling, it's just down currently a little bit. We have, let's take a look at volatility. We still have UVIX and UVIXY down in the pre-market, so that's good. If Treasury is holding their weight right now pretty decently. Doesn't look like that on TLT, but overall, basing it off the ZB, it is holding its weight. TLT has just been in a super, super strong consolidation range for an extremely long period of time because the market's trying to decide if, the inflation story is true or if the labor market having issues is true. They can't really determine which one yet because we just keep getting such mixed data where we have, the JOLTS job openings basically saying there's no jobs open or no jobs available, and that the unemployment has just been, picking up. Yes, it pulled down last reading, but again, we do have the unemployment rate coming out this Wednesday. I do believe we have the individual state unemployment coming out either today or tomorrow, so we will be going over that. Um, prior to the actual unemployment rates, and that'll give us a pretty clear picture of what the unemployment rate should be coming out as. Um, because we check over California, Florida, Texas, all the really big states, and that's where a large majority of the weighting from the unemployment rate comes from. So 10 minutes till open. I'm gonna run through the list here in just a second, and we will see if we can find a nice scalp or not. All right, so I'm going to take about 2 minutes, get some coffee really quick. I'll be right back, and then we'll go through my entire watch list. Very, very, very quick. See if we can find any quality scalps. If we find something, we'll act on it. If not, then we'll wait until something pops up. So I will be right back, everybody. All right, I am back. I'm going to take a very quick look over my watch list for the 5 minute time frame, see if we can find any scalps. Then I will take a look over silver for short or long term. Generally, my thought on precious metals right now is that any major dip should be bought. Uh, I still see gold traveling up towards the 6,300. Um, I have an exact price on it set. It was basically 70% above the 3950, if I remember correctly. Um, so definitely there's a ton of upside to precious metals. With it pushing below the 20 mile in terms of silver and gold, makes it a very, very, very strong, at least equity buy. Now for contracts, they can chop up the contracts just a little bit, so be aware of that. Generally buying at the 20 mile is not what I look for in terms of going long. Um, but with precious metals, it is a little bit different. AMD, again, there is a very nice cup and handle formed here. Um, if this cup and handle breaks out, this is going to create some very nice weekly contracts. Um, would definitely be looking at that one very closely. Again, with semiconductors pulled down in the pre-market, um, I think there is some very major upside to semiconductors right now. Amazon, we are still seeing the lower Bollinger in the 5 minute time frame pushed. So again, that can create a very strong buying opportunity. It has been pushed below the daily lower Bollinger as well. So multiple signals that are telling me that it's a strong buying opportunity. And even on the daily time frame, we're seeing the ADL starting to pull back upward. So with the ADL pulling back upward, that's suggesting that people are putting funds back into this. The ADL is actually pulling above this large consolidation range where it was a whole, what, 50 something dollars above the current price. So it looks very strong. Amazon looks really good this week. ARM has a little bit of a head and shoulders, but I wouldn't try to engage that with a short-term contract. Boeing again, kind of the same thing. You see that head and shoulders with that wonky candle. that can suggest that it might want to pull all the way back down towards that 241.81. That's not a whole lot of range on a scalp. That's 70 cents down. Yeah, it can give you some profit, but not really what I'm looking for. Bitcoin looks sketchy, but again, I'm seeing bullish structure forming here. Um, Go ahead and pull up the drawings. Basically, we do have a cup formed here. We do have a handle starting to form here. Sorry, it doesn't look like the best cup. Because this is still below this handle, this means that this can break out and create bullish structure. However, if it breaks below the bottom of the cup, then that would invalidate the cup and handle. So be aware of that. Um, but again, it does look bullish in the short term. Celsius is dumping for some reason. But it actually looks bullish. You have a nice cup formed there. From the cup, you see how it pulled down to the 20 MA on the 4-hour time frame. Very, very likely that 20 MA will be a bounce. That would give you a whole about $1 upside, which I really don't like in terms of contracts right now. No, it'd give you a little more than that. It'd give you about $2 upside. So potentially there is a play with Celsius here. We have 3 minutes till they open, so let me go ahead and go through this just a little bit faster. No, I'm not going to short Costco. DXY is still pulling downward. Again, we did see it all the way up at, I want to say it was close to 98 at one point this morning. It says it opened at 79 or 97.70, but it was slightly higher. Just not want to short that. Ethereum, same thing. Bitcoin. I don't want to short that. We're still seeing strength within the yen, so that's a bullish signal for the market. FXY has been pulling upward, EXY pulling downward. It's a shame that gold didn't give us the lower Bollinger on the open. It went from the lower Bollinger all the way towards that upper Bollinger, so it's kind of what I'm looking for in terms of those scalp moves. Google again is something to go look at. Hims is having a crazy sell-off right now. I'll be looking at that in just a second. Potentially we will be trying to find some form of entry on that. The HIG is holding up very, very strong. I was able to enter shares at 88.52, 80.53, something around there. Pays a very high dividend monthly, so heavily suggest that. iBit is seeing some buying. Not something I want to scalp. It does look good for equities though. Again, I did buy into iBit shares last week. Intel again does look good for the scalp. Or towards the end of the week contracts. Not going to go over quantum. To J. Again, Cree, there was a short opportunity within that. Hello Lily, we talked about how the lower Bollinger Of course, it went all the way up to the upper Bollinger, so there's that play happening in real time. The 5-minute Bollinger scalps work very, very well. This would have gotten you from 1071 all the way to the 1090. So that is a scalp. Oh, and it's not wanting to load on some of these. Lunar did see the breakout, but we're not going to trade biotech right now. ES is doing well. I actually think I might want to buy a contract into the SPY here. We are going to look at the VIX just to really determine. Again, that's one of the main things I look at before I am looking for bullishness in the upside, is we take a look at the VVIX. We did have the gap upward, um, and just very, very quickly going over how the VVIX works. If it's in this red zone, that means we very, very likely are going to be seeing selling within equities. Equities being the large majority of the SPY, tech, semiconductors, the main names. When we enter the yellow range, that's really showing consolidation. You can see major selling happening at that time. You can see major buying happening at that time. It's just that in between. And once we enter the green range, that's really when there's pretty much no selling present and it's just all buying. So what I'm looking for is for the VVIX to taper off. Now, again, it's still in this very, very dangerous red range. It opened basically almost at the 105. I am looking for this to pull down towards that 98 range today. Um, with the SPY, let's go ahead and take a look at the SPY really quick. Open the Bollingers. The SPY is below the lower Bollinger right now. Very likely you're going to take all the way towards that 688. Be aware of that. However, the upside looks very good, and we are going to be buying into this upside, I think. What about Apple? Let's take a look at Apple really quick. Yes, Apple would be a good scalp. That is something I um would take to the upside. Absolutely. Going to look at the VIX again, sorry. And you see we're starting to see the VVIX slowly pulling back downward a little bit. It did pull above that 5-minute upper Bollinger, which kind of the same thing in terms of scalping mechanics. With it being above the upper Bollinger, we should be expecting it to slowly start pulling back downward. We'll take a look back at the SPY. Did get a bounce off that lower Bollinger. Back up to the 20 month. Did not get an engage on that trade, unfortunately. was too busy trying to get everything set up, but it's okay. Um, that was a very quality scalp right there. Now, the next entry will be a rejection from this 20 mo. That can be a short back down to the lower Bollinger if you're bullish. However, um, a a bounce off of this 20 mile range to the upside would be also a very, very good scalp as well. We do need to be seeing the VVIX continuing to lose weight here. So far it's looking very, very strong. And even within the QQQ, we are seeing, let's go ahead and look at the QQQ. Again, this is still very elevated, so be aware of that. Things can shift very, very quickly right now. QQQ well below its 5-minute Bollinger, and it is seeing a little bit of bounce to the upside. Now, here's what I do want to look at. Let's see if we can get some cheap contracts. So, with me being bullish on semiconductors right now, I've been trading a lot of these $2 SOX contracts over the last few weeks. Generally, you can get these contracts fairly cheap. Currently, right now, they're about $16, so, 0.16. I do think I'm gonna take a couple of these just for this week, because again, I am bullish on the market overall. I do think that we can potentially see stocks drop all the way down to, um, that 1.5 range. Now, you're not going to get huge movement out of these contracts, but I have been able to get these contracts moving easily 100, 200, 300% within the week. So they are cheaper. Um, they are very nice to work on for smaller accounts. So definitely something to, keep open. And it is the inverse of socks. So socks is the main thing you would be doing any technicals um for that symbol. Kind of the same thing with like TQQQ, SQQQ. You'd be doing the technicals over the main primary symbol, on the leveraged version of it. The VVIX, we're continuing to see weakness. So this is suggesting so far, we're seeing a tapering within the selling. Not any major signal that we're seeing massive buying yet, but this is a signal that so far the selling is starting to taper. The VIX itself is still below this $20 range, which again, this is still within the bull area. Once we're above that $20 range, that's when things change a little bit. But with us being below this $20 range, a lot of bullish signals overall. I do want to look at the HIG, which is high yield corporate credit. Seeing a little bit of selling within the actual shares, and it's not going to show on your screen. I apologize. Um, but what I track on my Webull on the brokerage for the actual share amount is for the time and sales. You can edit it to have a minimum of 1,000 shares. So that's how I track the larger orders and filter out a lot of the noise. Um, I set a lot of those order sets in blocks of 1,000. So if there's large orders going through, I can very easily distinguish it. Google, we saw from the lower Bollinger bought up to the upper Bollinger so far. So that is working out well. We did not take that trade, but we did mention it. Let's check Amazon. Amazon is still pushing down, pushed all the way to the 203. Um, Again, this is still within that quality scalp area. Um, the upside's very, very large on this, and overall, with it being at that lower Bollinger, you can ignore this channel. That's just for the the 5 minute time frame. But the upside on Amazon is very large right now. Very welcome. Yeah, if there's any symbols or anything you guys want to go over, feel free, and I will be happy to ramble about it. So TQQQ. Again, this is kind of going over the QQQ. We are seeing that buying to the upside so far. We did not catch this scalp, but we did talk about it. So if you did catch the scalp, I hope you're enjoying it. You should be up quite a bit. I am going to be trying to enter some Amazon contracts right now for the end of this week. Okay, so I took some of the 210 contracts on Amazon, and the reason why I did that is again, we're looking for this to fill the fair value gap to the upside. Um, this selling I'm not too worried about at this point, unless we get a major, major leg down back towards that 203. But so far, we are seeing the lower Bollinger on the 5 minute time frame stick and hold its support. If we see the buying to the upside, that takes us all the way to 208. If we see buying to the upper Bollinger, that takes us all the way above that 210 strike, all the way to the 212. The 210 strikes that I bought were at 0.47 per. Currently they are at 0.53. So it is slowly moving up. Um, Again, with Amazon, we have an absurd amount of upside. The 20 mile on the daily time frame is all the way up at the 230. That's a whole 30 or a whole $29 from where we're at right now. So, potentially that could be again a very, very strong play. Let's go ahead and take a look at the VVIX again. Still continuing to lose weight. Remember, this was all the way up close to that 105 towards the open. Now it's pulling down towards the 102. So still elevated, but it is suggesting that the equity insurance is not being filled out. We're seeing semiconductors have massive buying to the upside. So actually, I want to check my socks put that I got today. It's already up $3 per share or per put contract. So very happy about that. Um, and the play hasn't even really even begun yet, so that's great. The Amazon contract, I'm already up $4. My Higgs shares are up 10 cents, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but with Hig, that's great. I'll take it. Seeing a lot of upside taken on SPY right now. If you got that scalp on SPY, then you would have been up quite a bit right now. Looking at the actual levels, I'm going to turn off a lot of these drawings. Let's go ahead and check the moving averages. We have the 5 mile opening today around the 687. Now I'm going to pull it up on your screen right now. I'll check the silver in just a second here. I just want to check the moving averages really quick. So I said the 5 mile would be around the 689 range. Um, it's around the 687, so it's a lot lower than what I anticipated it. Still puts us in kind of dangerous waters on the SPY. Um, with this upside buying, if we see this upside buying hold for at least another session, then we will have the 5 mile pulling towards the, or not towards, but to the 10 mile and the 20 mile. Um, two sessions of being at this level or above, then we will see the 5 mile being bullish again. Now, looking at silver, we did have a major bounce off that 5 mile or off of the lower Bollinger on the 5 minute time frame. I really wish we entered that because we would be up a whole $2 right now. Awesome. Uh, silver in terms of long-term buying. Again, it's at a very, very strong spot. You're above the 50 mile with a bounce. You have a rejection of the lower Bollinger, which that's a very, very bullish signal to me. The actual buying within the shares is very strong right now. I'm seeing a lot of buying, a lot of huge, huge orders to the upside. The 5 minute time frame does have a little bit of weakness. However, you do have this cup filling back up towards that 74.50-ish range. So very, very likely you might see a slight cooldown towards the 20 mile on the 5 minute time frame. But from that cooldown, you should be in, pretty much anticipating and fully expecting that 74.50, 74.70 range today on silver. Is it a good buy? Absolutely. I would try to time it around that 20 mile range on the 5 minute time frame just to get, a slightly better purchase. Uh, but at this point, it's not going to matter a whole lot. Whenever silver and gold get below these 20 mile ranges, it's the perfect time to buy. It doesn't matter if you bought at this $81 range. It's kind of like back when we were having this 20 mod test. I started buying my shares at it was 50 or not 54, it was 45.32. Um, I had a lot of people calling me, stupid, idiotic, a lot of different names saying that I was buying the top because remember, before all of that price action happened, silver looked like that. Okay. Um, it looked very, very close to what buying the all-time high would be. But I told people, load this 20 mile range because the upside on precious metals are just absurdly huge. And from there, we had, absurdly huge move. Now, I don't think we're done. I think that precious metals still have quite a bit ways to go. Um, So overall, I am bullish. I would not be worrying about buying, between the cents too much right now. The easiest thing you could do is if you have a set amount that you're wanting to commit, you start slowly entering into that amount. So say, just a basic example, say you wanted to do $1,000 in silver. Well, if you're not sure about this exact current price, well, you then stagger it. So you can do say 250 now. If it, hour and a half, 2 hours from now, if the price is starting to drop, then you can buy that dip. If it's starting to go or, starting to increase at that point, then yeah, you could have bought at a cheaper price earlier, but it's not the end of the world at this point. At least you're not missing the boat. You still have some shares going. We have this cup closed on SPY. So again, with this cup being closed, we should be anticipating a slight rejection. Um, the rejection range I'm looking for is that 20 mil. That would form a very nice handle for this cup. This can start pulling up before that, but really I'm looking for that 20 mile range for the next scalp. I would not be shorting towards this range. If you were going to short, you needed to short at the upper Bollinger. Um, the next move though is buying the handle on this cup for the upside. And that upside should be realistically towards that 691.83-ish range if we're going to have that cup and handle breakout. In terms of the buying channel and everything, um, we have a very nice buying channel going on the 5-minute time frame here. It actually goes all the way up towards that. So if we can break through this consolidation channel bottom, then the sky is pretty much the limit right now. So calls are looking very good. Entering at that 20 mile range would be ideal. If you can get slightly below that, it would be even better. The VVIX is still pulling downward. It has pulled upward very, very slightly in that time frame, but again, that's kind of showing how we hit the top of that cup. We should be seeing that slight upside, and I bet if we are looking at the Bollingers, yeah, it pulled towards that 20 mile range. From that 20 mile range, it's now pulling back up towards that upper Bollinger. Very likely pull towards the upper Bollinger, reject that, retest the 20 mile. SPY is getting ready to enter the 5 mile, or not the 5 mile, but the 5-minute entry. Not yet, but it's very, very close. Now, from this point, if you're wanting to enter bullish calls, again, I'd be looking very, very close at the VVIX. It is still pulling upward slightly. I'm looking for a push downward before I would want to enter any sort of calls onto the SPY. But that's what I would be looking for, is basically this to leg downward, and that would be a call purchase. So that's all we're waiting for at this point. Now, Bitcoin is starting to pull back upward. I'm not showing it on the screen right this second. I just have it on my phone, but it is pulling back up towards that 69,300 range. So that's good. We are starting to see the VVIX pull back a little bit. So with SPY, we are going to go ahead and enter a call. Let me see what call. Hold on. So I'm going to be entering the 693 calls, and I'm in at 0.52. So now we wait. We watch our SPY price, and we watch our VIX. The VVIX pulling upward very, very slightly. Again, I am expecting it to reject this upper Bollinger range. If it does not reject this upper Bollinger range, then very, very likely I will be trying to cut the call on SPY. Not yet though. Um, I'd really wanted to see it pushing upward quite a bit to suggest that um, I would want to change direction on the SPY. So seeing a little bit of a bounce going on. Contract starting to catch weight. Contract is up to 0.67, 62. Still looking great in here. Seeing the BVIX pulling back. Sort of all these signals we're really looking for on this 5-minute time frame. We're seeing our big buying upward, so that's a bullish signal. This is showing that there is strength within the equities. We're seeing Let's check the dollar. Bitcoin we talked about, still looking very good. It's forming that cup and handle. The DXY slash dollar continuing to melt. A melting dollar generally means equity strength, so that's another good signal for us. Let's check the FXY. So the yen still seeing strength on the day. It's, you know, consolidating a little bit here, but it's still holding its strength, so that's another good signal. You're seeing this handle forming on QQQ, so that is also a good signal that we're looking for. SPY, we're still seeing buying to the upside, and the VVIX still continuing to pull downward. All signals we're looking for. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad your AMD call's going good. I knew I was missing one of these. I we talked about Amazon. Amazon still needs to regain some of its weight. AMD doing very well. Oh geez, yeah, AMD is absolutely soaring. Waiting for Amazon to see some of that, but we are seeing a little bit of positive in this right here is that we have not gotten a lower low from the open. So that is a very bullish thing so far. Even though the price action doesn't look bullish, this is suggestive of a bullish bounce so far. Still seeing strength within the HIG. Very good signal. Nvidia is buying to the upside. We talked about that. And that sucker ripped. Um, what else? Still seeing strength within semiconductors that goes hand in hand with Nvidia. SPY seeing a little bit of consolidation here. VIX seeing just a very, very small amount of strength, but nothing I'm too worried about right now. We're seeing a lot of strength throughout a lot of other symbols. Very likely we will see this pulling down and very likely equities gaining strength in lieu of it. We are seeing Amazon starting to pull back upwards slightly. Not to where we want yet, but it is starting to head there. DXY is still holding its lows. FXY is still going well. Nvidia is still buying to the upside. It will be pulling back very, very slightly, and the real expectation should be it will pull back all the way towards that 20 mile range. I don't really expect it to pull back all the way to that range though. I do expect it to sort of consolidate up here and have the 20 mile pull up to it. Just something to be aware of. We are seeing the buying continuing within silver. There's that 20 mile range within the SPY. Um, Again, still looking at that as a major bounce to the upside. Still seeing good signals overall. Excuse me, I can't talk. BVIX pulling down very aggressively. Again, we are looking for it to push towards that 20 mile range on the 5 minute time frame and break below that. We are getting a little bit of a dip in WTI and oil like we discussed. something we're looking for, not the dip we want yet, but it is heading there. Seeing our success puts doing very well. You should, travel quite a bit downward this week. Can pull down towards the 690 range. 20 mile is still down that area. And once we get the breakout on SPY, which is looking like it's going to happen any second, I will go ahead and end the stream there. I am trying to start these off very slowly. I am still trying to get my fatigue and everything in check. So I consider this a very, very good first stream. I'm very happy with it. Uh, so yeah, there's anything else anybody wants to go over before we go ahead and end the stream, let me know. I'd be happy to discuss it. Let's check out Amazon. We are starting to see some of that selling weight coming back. It's very good. FXY is still strengthening. That's another bullish signal. Big is holding strong. SOX is pulling down slightly, but we did expect that. Buy again likely is going to hit that 690. BVIX is still pulling downward, so that is still a bullish signal for SPY. Again, buying this 20 mile range, if we even get to that point, is going to be very, very good, very likely. So far, I'm up in all of my contracts so far besides the Amazon calls. Those still have a little bit of weight to gain before I'm even neutral on them. But I am very, bullish on Amazon overall. Again, buying the lower Bollinger is exactly what I look for. So, um, yeah, I fully expect a lot of this selling weight today to be recovered. Bitcoin, we are still seeing it buying upward in all good signals. QQQ buying back upward, very likely going to start heading up towards that 611 range. Seeing semiconductors now pushing into the upper Bollinger again. SPY really starting to fly now. What we're really looking for on this cup and handle, which it's forming pretty much a perfect cup and handle at this point. You're looking for the breakout above the consolidation range, or that consolidation channel. That consolidation channel is at the 691.76. If you see a break above that, um, it should be off to the races. Just make sure you secure profit. Um, I, there's a lot of people. in the group right now that have really, really been struggling to secure profit, and I'm going to tell you exactly how you do it. If you buy at the bottom Bollinger, you sell at the 20 mile. If you buy at the upper Bollinger, you sell at the 20 mile. There you go. You never have to worry about not taking profit again. Um, so that's that. Other than that, everybody should be having a great day. Uh, other than the Amazon call so far, which they're slowly gaining weight. I'm still bullish on that for the end of this week. So okay, let me take a look at Apple. Let me take a look at Apple for you. Apple, let's see. I do believe we said buying the dip around that 275. I believe it was around 275 at the time anyway. That buying that dip would very likely be good. Now, for our time frame, so the one thing I am looking at on Apple is that you do have this very bullish cup forming here, and it's looking like it does want to take all the way back to the 288. Um, the only thing that I'm kind of concerned about is that you are well above all of your moving averages right now. With you being above all of your moving averages and with the or the price action leaving the upper Bollinger, it really does leave a lot of room to consolidate downward. So I am bullish on Apple, but it's not the right time to buy just yet. You really want to wait for it to pull downward towards that 20 mile range. Um, Let me see if I can find a good example. Here's kind of that example is that when you're pushed into this upper Bollinger and say we didn't know where the rest of that price action is at right now, potentially you can pull back up to that upper Bollinger again, but it leaves a lot of room underneath you. If you were to really measure how much of this was available in terms of 100% of the move, you have about maybe 15, 20% available to the upside while you have 80% available to the downside. So I really try to avoid buying any form of calls or equities at or or near the upper Bollinger. Because really that's just begging to have a position burn. Um, Even though I'm still bullish on this overall, the likelihood is that you will see some form of retest of this 20 mile range, retest of this major liquidity zone. From that, very likely then pushing into that larger upper Bollinger move, pushing into I believe what would be all-time highs. Let's double check the weekly. The weekly looks great. You have a very nice cup and handle formed on the weekly. That's where this yellow dotted line came from, the previous cup top. So this is all bullish structure. It's just you don't want to buy too early because you'll limit how much potential upside you can pull from that. The good way to think about this is that currently the 20 miles around that 260 range. If you bought right now, you'd be basically down $13 a share. And then you'd have to re-enter at that range too. You'd have to, DCA, add more shares to lower your average cost just to get that same upside move. Um, this is generally the range that I try to short because, again, the whole downside is there. You have all of your moving averages to test. Potentially, you can pull down to the lower Bollinger, compared to being up in this upper Bollinger range where really you only have the upper Bollinger and the 5 mile. So, um, bullish on Apple, but definitely wait. Yeah, absolutely. Did anybody else have anything you'd like me to check over really quick before we end the stream here? Not trying to rush anybody. Actually had a really great stream today. I appreciate everybody for, stopping by and commenting, questioning, whatever. I appreciate it. It's great to be able to see you all in here. And I love trading. I haven't been able to do this in quite a while in terms of just sitting at a desk and just fully focusing on trading. It's been months and months and months, so I'm very happy about it. Seeing the VIX losing that $18, seeing the VVIX pulling away from that 102 down to that 101. Again, all signals we want to see. That AMD call should be absolutely bananas. FXY, which is the yen, still holding strong. Same with the HIG, still holding very strong. Nvidia's been seeing a lot of buying as well. QQQ, we talked about heading back up to that 611 range, and here we are, back up at that 611 range. Well, currently 610.60, but it was at that 611 range, so it did nail our price target. Silver, we did get that 74.21. We do expect closer to the 74.45. SOX is pushing up very well. SOX S is melting very nicely. SPY is starting to break through this consolidation channel. It did have a little bit of a rejection here, but that can be expected. These consolidation ranges can take a little bit of uh I don't know the word right now, contention to get through. It does take a little bit of buying and selling to break through some of those major ranges. So always be aware of that. Our TQQ, I know we did not specifically in this video or in the stream buy TQQ calls today, but I did buy them on Friday, so my TQQ is up very nicely right now. Yeah, looking very good. VIX is still pulling down. BVIX still pulling down. All great signals. Yes, I still expect upside on SPY. Everything is looking very, very good for me personally right now. I fully expect this 692 range to be taken out. Um, really pushing into that 693 range today. We're seeing a lot of buying throughout semiconductors, throughout tech. We're seeing high yield corporate credit holding strong. Bitcoin, even though it looks pretty red right now, it is still holding strong. It's holding below, or I mean, excuse me, it's holding above our previous low. So that's something we are looking for. The yen's still holding strong, so EVIX on the 5-minute time frame, it did push into that upper Bollinger, so pushing from that upper Bollinger back down at the 20 mile. From this 20 mile range, either we will reject into the lower Bollinger, which is what I'm really anticipating, or we will see it bounce back upward, and that would be where you start cutting your calls. Still just seeing a lot of very good signals overall, though. SPY is pushing into the 692. Bitcoin is starting to push back up again. AMD is absolutely soaring. Why did I not buy calls? Well, I hope your calls are doing great. They should be absolutely flying. Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna go get my daughter ready for school. Um, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I'm sorry it was so short. It actually flew by today. I'm very happy with the stream. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope I was able to help some of you see some profit today. That's the goal, right? With that said, I will be back later in tonight's video where we'll go over, some of the data sets going out or releasing tomorrow in the morning and, whatever else we need to discuss. So thank you for tuning into the first stream, everybody. I appreciate it. Um, yeah, I thought this was a very great stream. Thank you. You guys made it very, very enjoyable. Uh, I will catch you in the next one. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.